Often a dreamer is someone who withdraws from normal earthly life and neglects his earthly duties. Or a Hans Peak in the air, who runs into danger because he only looks at the sky and loses sight of the reality on earth. But you do not dream in order to flee from reality. On the contrary, you strive to transfigure the earthly plane by making your dream come true in everyday life. You must endure and overcome the constant conflict between the beloved ideal and the cold material reality. How can I do that? A truly existential question. By working on adapting the earthly circumstances to your dream. On the other hand, you must not exalt yourself, not fancy anything that does not exist, and not pretend that you or your world are greater or nobler than they actually are. A disciple must not make himself a teacher. We do not want to belong to the numerous crackpots who think that they are reincarnations of Nefertiti or a great saint. One should not fall into self-deception and imagine what does not exist. You can avoid such widespread self-deception by basing your dreams on reality. Observe yourself and your surroundings very carefully. Assess realistically what is possible and what is not. On this basis, give yourself only to such fantasies, on the realization of which you are really able to work practically in everyday life. People think that the imagination tends to lead them away from what is real, but it is the developed imagination that permits a broader perception of reality. Let us not forget that the imagination derives mainly from the accumulation of experiences from one's past lives. Examination based on experience cannot produce a mirage. Let us now return to the practice of participating in the life of the higher world. First of all, it is absolutely necessary that you form a picture of yourself. Otherwise, the transfer of consciousness into the eternal individuality will remain abstract. You transfer your consciousness into the ideal, into the subtle model of the being that you want to be. Imagine not so much a person, but an office. The physical appearance of your transient personality changes from incarnation to incarnation, but your cosmic office, your position on the ladder of hierarchy, remains the same at all times, in all worlds. Therefore, put before your eyes the picture of a spiritual disciple, a teacher, a king of the spirit, a healer, or a spiritual warrior. Visualize yourself as a king. Then you will feel like a king. Then you will appear on the stage of the material world as a king. Then you are a king, at least in your true existence, in the spiritual world. Project the desired image of yourself into space. Isn't that utterly unrealistic? No, you are. Your eternal individuality is a being of the subtle world, a light body of subtle matter, of waves and vibrations, which is built up and formed by your own thoughts. As we had already discussed in the broadcastings, bring your soul to life and exercise the fiery condition. Imagine a big being, a cosmic giant, whose head reaches into heaven while his feet rest on earth. It is indeed true. The finer, the bigger. We repeat from the broadcasting the law of evolution. At the beginning of the cycle, the ethereal bodies of our monad were huge. They became smaller and smaller during descent into matter. On the ascending arc of the cycle, the subtle aspect of our being must become bigger again. Thus the hologram, the highest aspect of your sevenfold nature, your fiery body, is actually much bigger than your physical body. Only with this non-material creature, this thought construction, can you appear in the higher world and participate in life there. Next, form an exact picture of your heaven. How do you conceive it? As an ashram, a cave, a beach under palm trees, or a mountain top. In order to create your own little paradise, you must first imagine it and shape it in detail mentally. Thereby it becomes a reality in the subtle world. Then you can visit it there and never have to leave it again. Build a cell in your heart and never leave it. The heaven of a spiritual disciple is the sanctuary, the majesty of the mountain world, the purity, joy and solemnity of the Shambhala vibration. Visualize yourself in a sacred place. Then you will feel like in a sanctuary. Then you will live like in a sanctuary, at least in your true existence, in the spiritual world. Now you only have to preserve, in the middle of life on the material plane, this high vibration around you, which you have created in the morning meditation. As you picture yourself as a being touching heaven, so you fancy your surroundings as a hologram that connects the worlds like Shambhala, that rests on earth but reaches up to heaven. Be great enough to commence the preparation of the groundwork upon which you hope to build the edifice, the upper story of which will reach the heavens. However, these pictures are only relative. Everyone has his own paradise and imagines something else. Only very few know what their home, the heaven, really looks like, in which they will be dwelling after death. It is also not important at all that you picture the details of the place or building exactly as they actually exist in the hereafter. Crucial is that you grasp the spirit, the atmosphere of your eternal home, and reflect it on earth. The next step is put this image before your mind's eye and densify it to the point that it becomes a hologram. Thought creates forms in the subtle world. One can call forth from the depths of centuries any forms and densify them, if the imagination is developed enough. That relates both to the hologram of your eternal individuality and to the hologram of your heaven. In this way, you actually create thought buildings in the subtle world. To imagine an object or an attribute is to create the form of that object on an inner plane. And that object or attribute must as surely become objectified to the human senses in due time as day will follow night. Imagination is the substance of things hoped for. The dream image, the thought construction, is densified, first to a spiritual reality, and then more and more to a material form on earth. Among those labors to which one can turn, let us not forget the mental work that develops the imagination. We continually perform mental exercises. A superficial observer at times may think that we are asleep when, in the midst of our work, we close our eyes and send out thoughts to wander in the kingdom of imagination. These moments have great significance, for such imagined forms become real. We cannot judge when this realization occurs, but it does take place and is of help to mankind. We repeat an instruction because it is so exceedingly important. Saturating space with intensified thought, we clothe aspects of our striving with a particular form. Thus, out of elemental matter, we create the desired form. This structure remains near the place where it was created, and is fortified by our thoughts. The eye of a child or a refined consciousness can perceive this formation. What exactly does densifying the image mean? To densify means to steady. Keep the same image constantly before your eyes. Do not switch back and forth. Stay with one ideal. Elaborate it in detail. Thereby, it becomes a living reality, at least in the fourth dimension. You can then materialize this subtle form step by step. May man perform heroic actions in thought. From such heroic deeds a radiant aura is built, and when this light becomes strong enough, the dreams can be turned into action. Not without reason it is said that each dream will at some time be turned into reality. What does materialize mean? Well, making the subtle matter of the hologram denser and denser, so that it eventually becomes a physical form. And how do I do that? By animating the ideal, as we shall now discuss.